So we're thinking together about anxiety.
Too much or too little anxiety can cause a problem. Rather than helping me avoid harm and dangers, the process can cross a line and my anxious processing can become something that harms rather than keeping me safe. Our own experiences can inform how we help other people in life in lots of different areas, including how we handle our anxiety and our fears. We can learn from our own mastery of anxiety, but we need wisdom about if and when to share personal experiences. We don't want it to turn around to be all about ourselves if we're helping somebody else. And there'll be differences in their challenges around anxiety and what helps them than our experience, but also we want to validate that there might be some similarities, so it might be helpful. So our own experience has value, and when appropriate, it can be helpful to share our own experiences of getting better at handling anxiety in life, which apart from anything else, normalises it as a challenge in life and a process. One way we've looked at already to help ourselves or someone else is to zoom out and put anxiety into the wider context of a positive quest narrative, alongside what helps and hinders us on our quest. This can help contain the anxiety in the context of a narrative or a journey that we're on towards what we want in life. In addition, there's another set of skills to help someone get better at living well with anxiety. But instead of zooming out this time, we can zoom in and dissect our experience of anxiety into 9 different parts by asking and answering 9 simple questions. I'm going to tell you what those questions are now. You're going to need a pen and a piece of paper as an exercise, because we'll try an exercise and ask the questions, which will illustrate how these work by reflecting on yourself. If you're watching this on a pre-recorded film, you can press pause any time if you'd like a little bit more time to answer each question. So we're going to separate our experience of anxiety, or one of our experiences of anxiety, into 9 bits, and then think about how they connect together in order to make sense of our anxiety experience as a process. It becomes less puzzling to us then, because we can see the different parts of it and how they interact. So to start with, for this exercise, with a pen and paper, think about a recent experience that you've had where you felt anxious about something. Or you may have felt a bit fearful about something, for example, or you might prefer the word anxiety. Write a few words or a sentence to give this experience a title or a name, such as when I was thinking about paying my bills, or when I met with my line manager, when I went for that job interview, or a title like when I had to speak publicly. These are kind of typical examples. You might have a different example, but give it a title. Now write down your answer to the following 9 questions. The first question to answer is, what did the anxiety feel like subjectively in your body? Think about your automatic bodily responses, your physiology here. Where does it show up, this anxiety, in your body? Is it in your stomach, or in your legs, or in your head you feel it? You might write down physically how it felt. Did you have a sense of dread or unease? Did you feel tense in your muscles and unable to relax? Did you feel an increase in irritability? Was it difficult to concentrate? Was it difficult to remember things? Did you ruminate or repeatedly think about one situation, and that was a clue that you felt anxious? You may experience feeling disconnected maybe when you felt anxious. Some people feel disconnected from their body, like you're observing yourself from outside. Sometimes this is called depersonalization. You may be feeling emotionally numb. When you feel anxiety, you might switch off physically. These physiological changes are part of your mental armour to increase your chances of survival in the face of a threat, remember. You might have adrenaline and cortisol pumping around your body, and that might cause some of these physical reactions like feeling physically butterflies in your stomach. The effects of anxiety on your body may also include your breathing becomes quick or shallow or heavy breathing, tense muscles, back problems, headaches, feeling dizzy, fidgeting, being restless, teeth grinding. During sleeping you might teeth grind. Your blood pressure might rise. You might have a heartbeat that's irregular or quick, sweating, hot flushes, difficulty digesting food, butterflies in your stomach, feeling sick, sleep problems. This is all physiological reactions that may be caused by anxiety. But for you, where does it show up? Remember, many of these reactions occur because they are part of preparing your body for a burst of energy, so that you're ready to fight or flee from the danger or threat you've seen coming. By naming how anxiety shows up physically in our body, physiologically, we can be more mindful of it next time it shows up. Now answer question number 2. This is about your thinking or cognition, the rational reaction to the bodily response that you've just described. So write down how you started to think in this situation. What were the words that came to mind, the sentences, the language, the thoughts that were provoked in the example you're thinking about when you felt anxious? You might have started to think something negative about yourself, or you might have thought about the solution, or there's some typical thoughts and words that come to mind. Write that down. Next, write down what was the social situation or the context that you were in. For example, were you on your own when you felt anxious, or with other people, including people and relationships? What was the nature of those other people if you were with other people? Were they an authority figure, people with some kind of power over you, real or imagined, or maybe you were on your own? Next, answer question number 4, which is name any triggers. The thing that triggered off your anxiety. Was it getting some information of some kind? Maybe you opened an email up, or did you hear something over the phone? Or did you see something that triggered this anxiety? Or did you hear something? What was the trigger? Now answer the 5th question. Did you have any additional feelings other than anxiety? For example, you might have an additional layer of feelings like feeling annoyed that you got anxious. And any additional thoughts, like you might have started to think additionally, once you felt anxious, oh, I'm a failure. So you might have had a layer of thoughts and feelings which were different from the anxiety on top of the actual anxiety you felt. Write down if you had any additional layer of thoughts and feelings about your initial emotional reaction. Sometimes we might be annoyed because I felt nervous about this thing. Next, write down your behaviour. This is a separate area, isn't it? What was your actual behaviour in this situation? What actions did you take to respond to the anxious feeling? This could include doing nothing, or smoking maybe, if you smoke, or writing an email, or what did you actually physically do with your behaviour when you felt anxious? Next, question 7. Write down anything that helped you to cope. Could have been anything you did, or it could have been someone else, or something positive. Write down a list of things that help you coped when you felt anxious. And question 8 is, write down anything that hinders and made it worse in the situation. It might be something you did made it worse, or some thoughts, or it might be someone else said something that made it worse. Write down anything that made it worse, because that's a clue as to the 8th bit of splitting this anxiety into different bits. So question 9, you may not be able to answer this question if you're still in the middle of the situation that's making you anxious, but if it's something that's passed, write down what was the actual outcome. It's worth noting this when we're reflecting, because sometimes we felt more anxious than the actual outcome turned out to be, and we were catastrophizing, as it were. So write down what the actual outcome was. Or maybe we felt appropriately anxious and it was an appropriate level of anxiety. But what was the outcome in your example? And the final question is, take a minute to answer this reflective question, which is kind of number 10 really. Can or did you learn anything from this experience? Did you learn anything about what helped, for example, what helps you cope, or what hinders you, what makes things worse for you? Can you see how any of these 9 parts of your experience connect together in a pattern? It can help to open up a dialogue and reflect with somebody else about what patterns you can see in how the 9 areas connect. You can even write the 9 areas and 9 numbers down, or 9 titles of these areas on a piece of paper and start to draw lines between them to see how there's a pattern. Some ways that they interact with each other can be intensifying of the anxiety and make it worse, how it turns into an anxious loop. So if I'm anxious about my health, when I used to smoke, for example, I'd have a cigarette, then I'd feel anxious about my health, and then the way to calm my anxiety down was to have another cigarette, and then I'd worry again about the effect of that smoke. So that was an anxious loop example, but your example might be different. So some of the ways that we get into an anxious loop sometimes, but how do those 9 areas connect together? Sometimes it's just that there are helpful connections between those 9 parts, and they help us to navigate past a danger on our journey through life.